It was a night of great anticipation. The venue was packed, the crowd anxious, and the energy was palpable. The stage, lit by vibrant lights, was preparing to host one of the biggest stars in music. The crowd knew it would be a unique spectacle, but no one imagined that the real show would begin not on the stage, but in the audience. Amy Winehouse, the iconic singer with her raspy, distinctive voice, was about to take the stage. The first notes of her music began to play, muffled by the anticipation of the fans who had been waiting for this moment for so long. She was more than an artist to those who followed her. She was an icon, a symbol of genuine talent and irreverent attitude. The audience was captivated even before she took her first step. Everyone knew Amy wouldn't disappoint. She always delivered something more. The crowd was ready to be conquered. The sound of the music grew louder, and the atmosphere became charged with excitement. The audience danced, sang, and gave themselves fully to the performance that was about to unfold. But in the midst of all this positive energy, no one could have predicted what was about to happen. Suddenly, a wave of tension swept over the crowd, interrupting the celebration. At the moment Amy began her performance, something completely unexpected occurred. The music suddenly stopped. Amy looked intently at the crowd, and confusion took over everyone. A fan had fainted right in front of the stage, and no one knew what to do. What had seemed like a phenomenal performance by Amy Winehouse was now turning into something unimaginable. The music stopped, but what would follow would change the night forever. The crowd fell into complete silence, the atmosphere now filled with concern. But Amy, unlike what many might have expected, didn't panic. She looked at the fan with remarkable calmness, but her concern was evident. With a serious expression, she gestured for the music to stop immediately. The audience, stunned, watched as the star stepped away from the microphone, and then they heard her voice cutting through the silence. "We're not going to continue until he's okay." Without hesitation, she looked to her security team and signaled for the medical staff and support crew to rush to the scene immediately. What was once a star in the midst of her performance now became a woman deeply concerned for the well-being of someone in the audience. Amy didn't think about maintaining her image or pushing her team to continue the show. She thought about the person there, the fan who paid to see her music, but who at that moment needed immediate help. What no one knew was that while everyone waited for updates on the fan's condition, Amy wasn't just concerned about the person in question. She was also aware of the impact this moment would have on her relationship with the audience. She knew that what would happen next would forever change the way people saw her, her personality, and her relationship with her fans. No one could predict that soon the biggest star in music would show such an unexpected and sincere act of compassion that it would become a defining moment in her career and in the history of her connection with her fans. The crowd, now even more connected to Amy, anxiously awaited further details. The suspense was palpable, and no one could predict what would happen next. What seemed like a disaster, an interruption of the show that could have generated frustration, was now turning into something grand, an example of altruism and care that no one would forget. When the music suddenly stopped, the crowd went completely silent, as though time had come to a halt. The stage lights, which had previously illuminated the vibrant energy of the crowd, now seemed dimmed by the tension in the air. Amy, with her eyes fixed on the audience, quickly realized what had happened. A fan had fainted right at the front of the stage, falling unconscious, and no one knew what to do. The first reaction from the audience was shock. What was supposed to be a much-anticipated show was now turned into a scene of panic. But Amy, unlike what many might have expected, did not panic. She looked at the fan with remarkable calmness, but her concern was evident. With a serious expression, she gestured for the music to stop immediately. The audience, stunned, saw the star step away from the microphone, and then they heard her voice cutting through the silence. We are not going to continue until he's okay." Without hesitation, she looked to her security team and signaled for the medical staff and show support crew to immediately attend to the fan. What was once a dazzling star in the middle of her performance didn't think about maintaining her image or rushing the show. She thought about the person who was there, the fan who had paid to see her, but who now needed immediate help. The moment was unexpected, undoubtedly, and the crowd was completely immersed in the situation. Most fans didn't know what to do, but seeing Amy take action, everyone began to realize that what was happening wasn't just a minor emergency. It was a reflection of an attitude of care and compassion that few had imagined she could display. No one could predict that. While everyone waited anxiously for news about the fan's condition, Amy was more than just worried about him. She was also concerned with how this moment would shape her relationship with the audience. She knew that what was to come would change everything. While the crowd waited, concern was etched across Amy's face. She moved to the edge of the stage, looking at the fan who was now being carefully attended to by paramedics. The tension in the air was palpable, but Amy remained calm. She wasn't just there as an artist. She was someone who knew that her presence had the power to make a deep impact. Amy, with a simple gesture, asked the audience to remain silent and wait. Instead of continuing with the show, which would have been the easiest choice, she made a different decision. Her voice cut through the room. "We're not going to continue until he's okay. All of you are here because, to me, you're more than fans. You're part of this story." What seemed like a simple pause turned into an act of humanity that captivated everyone. Those who were merely there to watch a performance now saw something much greater. Amy Winehouse, known for her irreverence and rebellious stance, was showing the world what it meant to care about others. She was demonstrating a side of herself that few ever thought they'd see. At that moment, the crowd wasn't just looking at a star on stage. They were seeing a woman who cared about the life of her fans. The act of stopping the show wasn't just a choice. It was a declaration that Amy cared deeply about those who came to see her, who came to feel her music. And that was enough to unite the audience in a wave of solidarity and respect for the singer. The tension that had initially hung in the air began to dissipate because of Amy's firm yet human stance. As the medical team did their work, Amy stayed there, awaiting updates and asking everyone to remain calm. She didn't rush the process. On the contrary, she wanted to ensure that the fan got the care he needed, without the pressure of a show that had to go on. And it was exactly this that connected her more deeply with her audience. Amy Winehouse, by doing something so simple, but so powerful, was changing the dynamic between her and her fans forever. Time seemed to crawl, but the calm Amy transmitted made everyone in the room feel at ease. A few minutes passed, and finally, the fainted fan began to respond. The medical team was around him, helping him to sit up. He still seemed disoriented, but when he looked around, reality hit him hard. He was facing Amy Winehouse, who had stopped her show to ensure he was properly cared for. The fan, now aware that he had been the center of all this attention, could hardly believe what was happening. He looked at Amy, still trying to process if he was dreaming or if it was really happening. But when he saw Amy smile at him, his heart filled with immense gratitude. He wasn't just okay. He was now receiving something few would ever have the chance to experience, a genuine connection with the artist he admired so much. Amy, with a sincere smile, stepped closer and said something simple but deeply touching. "I'm glad you're okay. You're not alone here. We're all together in this moment." This act of humanity was the key to what happened next. The fan, now even more emotional, began to cry with joy. Applauded by the fans around him, he felt the true power of that connection. The show, interrupted for a brief moment, was now gaining a new perspective. What could have been seen as a mistake, a failure in the performance, had transformed into one of the most powerful moments of the night. The audience, who had initially been tense, was now united in a true celebration of humanity, support, and love for the artist. As the fans stood up and received the love from the crowd, Amy stepped back and looked at the audience. "Now let's continue with our music, because in the end, that's what unites us," she said with a smile, before resuming the show, leaving an indelible mark on everyone's memory. What started as an unexpected event turned into a lesson of empathy, and without a doubt, that moment would be remembered forever in the hearts of everyone present. The show continued, but nothing would be the same. As Amy resumed the music, the crowd was completely absorbed, but in a deeper and more meaningful way. The energy in the venue had shifted. What had once seemed like just a musical performance was now transformed into a moment of pure emotion, a genuine act of empathy. The connection between the artist and her audience had grown stronger in an unexpected way. The reaction from the crowd was immediate. After the fans' incident, they clapped loudly, not just for the performance about to continue, but for Amy's gesture, which demonstrated a humanity rarely seen in a big show. The music, which had once been the sole reason for the event, had now become the vehicle for a shared experience that united everyone in a single feeling: care and solidarity. Fans of all ages and backgrounds were now more connected than ever. The crowd, which had been there just to enjoy Amy's music, was now united by an experience that went beyond the songs. The audience had become a community, a group of people who shared the same emotion, respect, and affection for the artist who had shown so much care. As Amy resumed the performance, her voice now had a different tone, softer, more intense, filled with the emotion she had just lived with her fans. She sang with renewed energy, as if the music were her way of giving back the love and attention she had received. The show, which could have been simply a performance, had now become a true celebration of life, empathy, and connection. The people present would never forget that moment. Social media exploded with posts and videos sharing the story of the fainted fan and Amy's reaction. The story spread like wildfire, and many who weren't at the show felt they were part of the experience, witnessing, even from a distance, the true power of Amy. The show continued, but the impact of what had happened didn't fade with time. As Amy resumed the music, the audience was fully immersed, but in a much deeper and more meaningful way. The energy in the room was different. Now, every note of her voice seemed to resonate even stronger, as if it were charged with a unique emotion. Each word felt more sincere, each melody more powerful. Amy, with her unmistakable voice and the presence that made her adored, sang with renewed intensity. She was no longer just the artist everyone knew. She was a woman who understood the power of caring for others. And at that moment, her commitment to her audience was clearer than ever. It wasn't just about performing, it was about connecting in a real and human way. She dedicated the next song to the fan who had fainted, saying, "This one's for you, my friend, because the music is not just for me, it's for all of us. Thank you for letting me be part of your lives." The fan, now back in his place in the crowd, became even more emotional as he heard Amy's words. He knew he would never see the artist the same way again. She wasn't just a star on stage. She was someone who cared. The audience, in response, sang every word with even more energy, as if, through the music, they were reaffirming their gratitude and support for the artist. The sense of unity was so strong that it seemed like everyone was celebrating together like one big family. Amy's music, which had always been praised for its unique talent, was now seen as something more, a tool for healing and connection. That night, which could have been marked by just another show, was transformed into a shared life experience. Amy showed that her true greatness wasn't just on the stage, but in her genuine commitment to her fans, in her act of humanity that touched everyone present. She wasn't just there to sing, she was there to show what it meant to care for others, even when the world expects you to move forward. And in the end, that was what impacted her audience the most. The story of Amy Winehouse interrupting her show to help a fainted fan didn't fade away. On the contrary, it became a defining moment in Amy's career and in the memories of all those who witnessed it. This moment transcended music, becoming an example of humanity and empathy that was recorded not just in the memories of the fans present, but across social media and the stories that were told thousands of times. Amy, with her simple but deeply meaningful gesture, demonstrated to the world that her true greatness was in her ability to care. Music, in its essence, is a universal language that unites people, but it was Amy's generous heart that made that show become a lesson for life. The singer would never know the lasting impact of this moment. While the crowd remembered the event, they came to understand Amy in a completely new way. She was no longer just the talented singer everyone knew. She was someone who, at the peak of her career, chose to make a difference in someone's life, and by doing so, touched the lives of many others. Today, that moment is remembered as one of the most emotional and powerful stories in a live show. Amy's empathy resonated far beyond the walls of the stage, and her legacy, marked by that act of care, continues to inspire fans around the world. Amy became a legend, not just for her music, but for her humanity, something that will forever be immortalized in the history of rock and world music.